I was folding the last stack of towels when I heard Camille's voice echo from the hallway, too loud, too amused. "Your mom has plenty. She won't even notice." The tone was sharp, with confidence, laced in a laugh that wasn't meant for me. By the time I stepped out of the laundry room, she was already gone. The front door hung slightly ajar, wind pushing in against the frame. Her purse, one of those branded ones she never explained, had swayed on her shoulder as she disappeared down the path. And the silver card I kept tucked between my license and grocery list was no longer in my wallet. No note, no request, just gone. I stood in the middle of the living room towel still in my hand and stared at the space where the card had been. I checked twice, then a third time, flipping through every sleeve in my worn leather wallet like I might be wrong. I wasn't. Beside me, the baby monitor on the coffee table blinked softly. My granddaughter sleeping in the next room, safe and unaware. Upstairs, I could hear Luca talking on a work call, door closed, voice steady. Life was going on like nothing had happened, but something had. I didn't say a word. Not right then. I just picked up the monitor, folded the towel again for something to do with my hands, and sat down on the edge of the sofa. I stared at the front door for a long time. This wasn't the first time something had gone missing. It was, however, the first time I saw it happen. Saw her hand reach for something that wasn't hers. Heard her joke about what I wouldn't notice. I placed my wallet back into my bag and zipped it shut. Slowly, carefully. Then I reached for my phone. I opened the banking app, and I waited. When I moved in, Camille had just come home from the hospital, pale and exhausted with the baby tucked against her chest, like something too fragile to set down. Luca met me at the driveway with his usual quiet guilt behind the smile. "Just until things settle," he said, brushing a hand through his hair like he was already overwhelmed. "She needs help. We all do." I said yes before he finished asking. Of course I did. At first, I only meant to stay a few weeks. I brought my clothes in a single suitcase and told myself I wouldn't unpack fully. But days blurred. Camille slept most afternoons, and when she didn't, she scrolled through her phone while I held the baby-warmed bottles, scrubbed the kitchen. I started adding groceries to their list, then paying for them outright. Diapers, wipes, formula, things young families struggled with. I remembered what that was like. I didn't mind. What I did mind came later, when Camille started referring to the hallway bathroom as the guest bath. When my baking sheets were pushed into the garage, when my dinners were called a little heavy, and my suggestions old-fashioned. Camille never argued. She just smiled that polished smile and said nothing, like I wasn't worth disagreeing with. Luca, bless him, was always polite, always busy. "You're helping so much, Mom," he'd say, kissing my cheek before heading to his office upstairs. He never noticed I paid the internet bill last month, or that I topped up the electricity account when the overdue notice came. I began keeping receipts not for reimbursement, just so I could remember what was mine. It's strange becoming invisible in the house you help keep standing. Stranger still when no one seems to notice you disappearing. The bank notification came through that evening, $319 at Cosmetica Luxe. A second one followed 20 minutes later. I sat on the couch, baby asleep against my shoulder, and stared at the screen until it dimmed. By the next morning, the charges had stacked up. $319 at Cosmetica Luxe, $85 to a ride service I'd never used, then $100 to my $50. This one made my stomach turn a boutique uptown I'd passed many times but never stepped inside. I sat at the table with my coffee going cold and reread each transaction. The timestamps were clear. Camille had left the house laughing at 10:12 a.m. By 11:47, she was at the boutique. The math wasn't hard. When she came home, she breezed through the door with 2 shopping bags and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I asked about the charges without raising my voice. I even gave her the benefit of the doubt, asked if maybe she used the wrong card. She didn't blink. "Oh, I thought Luca told you. He said it was okay." She said it like it was already settled. Like permission was something passed between them, and I was just an afterthought. I found Luca in his office and showed him the receipts. He looked genuinely confused, even rubbed his forehead like the conversation itself was inconvenient. "I thought you gave her permission," he said without meeting my eyes. No apology. Not from either of them. I left the room quietly. That night, after Camille went to bed and Luca turned on his white noise machine upstairs, I opened the drawer where I normally kept my wallet and took the card out. I held it in my hand for a long time. The edges were smooth from years of use. I'd used it for groceries, emergencies, a few road trips. I never thought I'd have to protect it in my own home. I placed it in an old eyeglass case and tucked it deep in the linen closet. Then I pulled out the small motion camera I'd ordered a year ago, but never used. I set it up above the kitchen counter where the mail tray sat, and my things tended to disappear, just in case. I wasn't angry yet, but I was done pretending not to see. Yvonne met me at our usual spot, a quiet cafe on J Street, where the servers knew how to keep conversations private. She listened while I talked about the charges, the silence, the way Camille moved through the house. I didn't even realize how much I'd been holding in until the words came out all at once. Yvonne didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix it. She just waited until I stopped. Then she leaned back in her chair and said almost casually, "Let her hang herself." I frowned. That's not funny. It's not meant to be. People like her always overreach. You just have to stop protecting them. The phrase sat wrong with me, but her meaning didn't. I'd been walking on eggshells for months, afraid of being the difficult mother-in-law, the overbearing parent. I'd spent my whole life fixing messes. Maybe it was time to stop. That night, Camille came downstairs wearing a silk robe I didn't remember buying her. She laughed while opening the fridge, that easy, confident laugh that filled every corner of the house. "Don't forget your emergency card, Inez," she said over her shoulder like it was an inside joke. I smiled. "Oh, it's right where it always is." She looked at me for a moment too long, then closed the fridge and walked away. I stayed at the table sipping my tea, pretending to scroll through the news on my phone, while my mind traced the same thought Yvonne had left me with. Let her. 2 days later, the alert came through. $2,700 at Belle Maison Boutique. A second charge pending. My throat went dry, but my hands were steady as I called the bank. "This is Inez Marchand," I said, giving them the card number. "I'd like to report unauthorized use." When I hung up, I opened my calendar and drew a line through the afternoon. Whatever plans I had could wait. Belle Maison sat on a corner in Midtown Sacramento, all glass windows and golden signage, the kind of place that smelled like expensive perfume and silence. I'd only ever passed by it before. I'd never thought I'd walk in with a camera hidden in my purse and my heart steady. Camille didn't see me. She was already at the counter chatting with the clerk, 2 handbags laid out in front of her like trophies. One was pale leather, the other black with gold trim. She flipped her hair over her shoulder as she reached into her purse. I didn't need to get closer. The view was perfect from where I stood, just inside the entrance, behind a stand of scarves. I tapped my phone screen. The recording started. She handed over the card like she'd done it a dozen times. No hesitation, no glance behind her. The cashier took it, smiled politely, and ran it through the register. Then she paused. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said. "This card was reported stolen by the owner." Camille blinked. For a second, she didn't seem to understand. Then her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I stepped forward slowly, keeping the camera steady in my hand. The air shifted when she saw me. Her eyes widened, face draining of color, like someone had pulled a plug. "Everything okay here?" I asked. The cashier looked between us. Camille's lips parted, searching for words. But nothing came. "I'm the cardholder," I said calmly. And yes, I reported it. The cashier stepped back instinctively, placing the card beside the register. Would you like me to cancel the transaction? Yes, I said. And please keep the card. Camille's hand hovered over the handbags, unsure whether to grab them or let them go. I didn't speak again. I didn't need to. I stopped recording, turned, and walked out of the boutique. Behind me, the door chimed softly as it closed. Camille called Luca before I even reached the car. By the time I got home, he was already waiting in the driveway, pacing like a man who had been summoned into a war he didn't understand. His face was flushed, voice tight with nerves. Mom, what the hell happened? I didn't answer right away. I walked past him into the house and set my purse on the kitchen table. He followed, shutting the door too hard behind him. She said you embarrassed her in public, that you accused her of theft. I looked at him carefully, his shoulders tense, his hands clenched. Camille's version of events was already working on him, but not completely. I could see it in the way his voice faltered near the end, doubt creeping in. I didn't argue. I picked up my phone, tapped the screen, and played the kitchen footage. It was short. 38 seconds of Camille taking the card from the tray near the counter while glancing around the room like she thought no one was watching. Luca said nothing. Then I opened my banking app and showed him the list of charges. Cosmetics, ride service, boutique, groceries from 2 towns over places I'd never shopped. He stared down at the screen, then at the phone, then at the floor. She said she thought I never gave her permission, I said. Not once. He rubbed the back of his neck, still not meeting my eyes. She's scared now. She thinks you're pressing charges. I already filed the report, I said evenly. The account's frozen. The card is canceled and replaced. He looked up at that. Finally. You all ready? Yes. I didn't wait for his next sentence. I picked up my purse and walked toward the stairs. I didn't slam doors. I didn't raise my voice. Some things didn't need more noise. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of the bed, phone still warm in my hand. I scrolled back through the footage one more time, then saved it to the cloud. Afterward, I opened the drawer of my nightstand and pulled out the deed. The folder was right where I left it, tucked inside a locked case beneath my winter sweaters, the ones I hadn't needed since moving in. I laid everything out on the bed, one sheet at a time, like cards in a game no one knew I'd been playing. The original deed from when we bought the house together. I'd paid the down payment. Luca had insisted on listing all 3 of our names. It'll help with taxes, he said. You're part of the family. Then the quitclaim Camille had printed and left on the counter 2 years ago, the one I never signed. No conversation. Just her handwriting in the margin. We'll need this for refinancing. And finally, the denial letter from the bank. Camille's attempt to open an equity line against the house. I'd found it by accident one afternoon while sorting mail. She must have forgotten to hide that one. I packed the folder neatly into my bag and called my lawyer. He picked up on the second ring. Inez, he said. Still quiet on your end? Not anymore, I replied. By the time I left his office that afternoon, the paperwork was done. My name was reinstated as sole owner. All signatures verified. The quiet part was now loud on paper, notarized and binding. Outside, the air was sharp with dry wind. I didn't rush. I stopped by the hardware store on the way home and scheduled the locksmith. Camille was out when I returned. Luca's car was still gone. The house for once was still. I walked through each room slowly. I noticed the small things now, the missing coasters, the way my books had been packed into a bin and shoved in a closet. I didn't feel hurt anymore, just done. Upstairs, I placed the folder into my desk drawer and locked it. Then I made a second call to the storage unit I'd kept all these years. Just in case. The pounding on my bedroom door started just after 9. I already knew it would be her. Only Camille banged like that, like noise could replace respect. I took my time crossing the room, pausing only to glance at the envelope already waiting on my nightstand. When I opened the door, she didn't hesitate. "You can't do this," she snapped, eyes wild, voice shaking, not from fear, but from disbelief. Luca stood behind her. He didn't meet my eyes. His hands were stuffed in his jacket pockets, mouth pressed in a thin line. He looked like he wanted to vanish. I looked at Camille. She was wearing the same coat from the boutique, though she'd removed the tags. Her hair was undone, her tone still sharp but no longer confident. Not like before. I didn't argue. I held out the manila envelope. She stared at it like it might explode. "Receipts," I said plainly. "Every transaction on the card since July. The security stills are numbered. Pages 7 through 10, and the final page is a notarized copy of the debt acknowledgement." She didn't reach for it. I stepped forward and gently placed the envelope in her hands. She looked down, then up again, confused by the calm, maybe even scared by it. "Leave it with my attorney," I said. Luca finally looked at me then, not angry, not embarrassed, just tired, but he said nothing. I nodded once and began to close the door. Camille started to speak again, but I didn't wait. The latch clicked into place before her next word could finish forming. I didn't lean against the door. I didn't cry or shake. The house is quiet again. Not empty, just still in a way that feels earned. I wake early now, not from crying or footsteps or slammed doors, but because I want to. The kitchen is mine again. The radio hums low while the coffee brews. No one rearranges the pantry. No one leaves dishes in the sink overnight. The rhythm of the house is slower, softer, mine. I moved my things out of the guest room and back into the master bedroom the day after the locks were changed. The closet smelled like Camille's perfume, but I washed everything, aired out the drawers, and lit a candle I'd saved for better days. They came. I resumed the mortgage payments myself. Quietly. I didn't tell Luca. I didn't need to. The account has only my name now. Every bill paid, every cent tracked. No surprises. The baby's photo still sits on the mantel. I dust around it every Saturday, but I don't ask to see her. I don't ask for updates. I don't press. Luca texts once a week. Short messages. Neutral. "Hope you're doing okay. Baby's sleeping through the night now?" Camille started part-time work. No apologies. No requests. But no more missing cards. No more charges I didn't make. No more laughter in the hallway at my expense. It's strange how quiet the phone is now that there's nothing left to take. I've started walking again mornings before the sun climbs too high. The neighbors wave like they used to. I breathe deeper. My chest doesn't tighten at the sound of approaching heels. Sometimes I wonder if Luca understands what really broke. Not the trust, not just the money, but the way I was expected to disappear inside their comfort. I don't think he does. Maybe he never will, but that's not mine to fix. This peace I've found, this home I reclaimed, it doesn't ask for permission. It just exists, like I do. This morning, I opened the drawer Camille once rifled through, now clean and locked. I place a new card inside, one with my name. Just mine. The drawer she once opened without asking now clicks shut with a key. I keep it locked, not out of fear, but to mark a boundary that should have been respected long ago. Inside, there's not much, just the essentials. The new card embossed with my name and no one else's. I haven't used it yet, but that isn't the point. Having it untouched, unshared is a kind of quiet declaration. Next to it, a small envelope of receipts. Neat, dated, exact. I no longer need to reference them, but I haven't thrown them out either. They serve as a record not of what was taken, but of what I chose not to ignore. And then tucked beneath both is a letter addressed to Luca. I wrote it weeks ago, folded it carefully. It isn't angry. There are no accusations. Just a plain recounting of what happened, what I felt, and what I chose to do with it. I haven't decided whether I'll ever send it. Some truths I think belong better to paper than to another confrontation. Some stories are safer, left unread by the people who caused them. Outside, the sun is barely up. I water the plants along the windowsill, deadhead the marigolds, and check the mailbox. Though I don't expect anything, the morning is still. The silence isn't empty anymore, it's chosen. I pour myself a cup of coffee, strong and black, and sit by the window. I don't check my phone. I don't wonder who might call. The house creaks in the same places. But there's no longer the feeling that someone else is listening, watching, weighing how much they can take without consequence. No raised voices, no footsteps circling upstairs, no laughter behind closed doors. Only mine, only what I've kept and what I've reclaimed. The drawer stays locked, and the key is exactly where it should be, on my own ring in my own pocket.